Mashiach comes, we'll have the East Bank. At this point, we have the West Bank. But the point is that is that we're on the East Bank now, which means we're not yet in Israel, and we're also in the wilderness. A lot of other places he mentions over here, and these are Moshe's words. Let's skip all those places, okay? And frankly, I mean, it's kind of funny that the place that they would be on the east side of the Jordan would have so many different names. The east side of the Jordan, the wilderness, the Arava, the Sea of Reeds, Paran, Tophel, Laban, Chatzeros, Dizahab. A lot of places. But you'll see that in the English, on the second line, they add the word concerning. Moshe's words are concerning these places. So it shouldn't be misunderstood that we are at these places, but rather he's talking about these places. That's how we understand it. The word concerning does not appear in the Hebrew, by the way, which means you got to figure it out. But it's easy to figure out if you talk. Obviously, you can't be in 15 different spots at one time. Secondly, I mean, what spot are they? Well, on the east side of the Jordan. If they're on the east side of the Jordan, they're not in the wilderness anymore. And they're not in their Rabbi either. And certainly not in the Sea of Reeds. The Sea of Reeds was way back when, 40 years ago, when they were standing at the sea, and the Jews were confronted with the sea and the Egyptians, and were frightened, and God split the sea. But that's a whole different place. So you have to understand how the Torah works in terms of its written form. In its written form, everybody must know that you have to look into it deep and understand the text to truly understand what Hashem is conveying to us. The text is conveying, obviously, that we're at a spot which is near Israel, and that's the first spot, the other side of the Jordan. Of course, over the Jordan, where are we? In Israel. And that's where we're at. We're at the cusp of our dream, on the cusp of of hope to get to Israel. But these other places mentioned in the pasuk, they can't be. We can't all be at the same spot. They're all different spots. So therefore, there has to be an interpretation. The interpretation is concerning. That's how we understand it, and that's why the English puts the word concerning. But we have to figure that out. See, the people who put the word concerning in had to be scholarly enough to figure it out. How did they figure it out? Because they understood that Moshe here is talking, but it doesn't say what he says. These are the words that Moshe spoke on the other side of the Jordan and the various other places, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't say what he said. So that isn't that strange? I mean, if somebody says it, what's he saying? Correct, exactly. So that's the point. The point is to realize and use your thought process. You can look at the commentaries. Of course, that's a very smart thing to do. But what you really want to do is you really want to try and understand. There should be some chairs around there somewhere. Maybe grab a chair from my office if you want to also. Okay. What you really want to understand is you want to learn how to learn this on your own. The point of my teaching is to teach you how to do this. So you look at the passage, and the first thing you need to do is to point out the problem. There's a problem here. The problem is there's too many places. The problem is that there are too many, and they're all different places. They all can't be in the same place at the same time, and that it doesn't say what Moshe said. So therefore, Zach's point is well taken. What the guy is saying. He's saying that frankly, what it really means is that Moshe is talking about these places. So why does it say so clearly then? It's easy to make you think, to make you work at it, to make you understand the depth of what God's trying to teach, but also because it's easy to figure out because it says Devarim. It says words. In other words, there's got to be the words here, and therefore these words must be about these places. And we're going to talk about them in just a second. But I want to skip over to verse 2 and say that it took 11 days for us to go from Chorev to by the way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. And I want to talk about this trip in a moment. But I also want to say that identify Chorev. Does anybody know what Chorev really means? What place is Chorev? Does everybody got Chorev? Okay, we'll share or whatever you got. Huh? Yeah, Devarim, yeah. Well, what does Chorev mean? What place is Chorev? Anybody? Chorev is another way of saying Har Sinai. It's another way of saying Har Sinai. I don't recall exactly where that is taught to us, but I do know that that's what it is. So I guess you can trust me on it. But the Rambam says, right? Yeah, right. And all the commentaries say there's no doubt about it. That's what it is. I found a place. Okay, folks. I'm pleased with myself. Allow me my vanity for a moment. Currently turn back to page 300. 300. Watch what happens. Page 300 is the third chapter of the second book of the Torah. Everybody knows that the second book of the Torah is the story of the beginning of slavery in Egypt. Everybody also knows that at the very beginning, Moshe Rabbeinu was born, who will emerge to take the Jews out of Egypt. Everybody also knows that on this, in this passage here, Moshe Rabbeinu is now working for his father-in-law. He just got married Zipporah. He ran away from Egypt, as you know, because he killed an Egyptian, and he is now found a place in Midian, and he found a nice wife. And he saved all the girls from being oppressed by the guys who didn't want to give them water for their flock, and he took them and he saved them, and he took one of them to his wife, and he began to take care of the flock of his father-in-law. And one day, Moshe is watching the flock, as you can see in chapter 3, verse 1, page 300, and and he's taking care of the flock of Yisro. That's his father-in-law, right? That's what it says. Who happens to be the priest of Midian. And he takes the flock out to the desert, and he comes to the mountain of God, Chorev. Who can tell me without looking what he found there? What did he do? What did he find there in Chorev as he was with his flock? Anybody?
Burning bush.
He found the burning bush. That's good. That's for sure. That's right.
Not because I read it.
Oh, fair enough. I'm glad that you knew it. He found the burning bush, and we all know this was a seminal moment in his life. And I'm going to digress for just a moment, and let's say, and digress and talk to you about a man's life and a person's seminal moment in which he changes and becomes a different person. Now, I wrote a paper about it. You can find it. I wrote a paper about 5 pages about a point in my life when I changed. And I was with my Rabbi when I was 17 in Israel, away from home, and learning in yeshiva. And it was a great moment for me. And I put you there. I'm sorry. Yeah. Come to the yeshiva. You saw that thing come to start. Oh, yeshiva. I make it up. Okay. Squeeze somebody. Okay, you got it. Okay. This is Moshe's seminal moment, and I'm not going to tell you mine now. That's not relevant, but someday. Anyway, so Moshe Rabbeinu has this seminal moment in which God appears to him, and he recognizes that it's God. What does it mean he recognizes that it's God? So he and I digress at this moment to tell you this, because I think it's important for everybody to learn. that you have a moment in life when you יש עוד אחד פה. אחד פה, שם, יאללה. Right there. Simple. Okay, beautiful. Got it. Okay, we're in good shape. My leadership.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Okay, not to say that. Okay. Cheers. Gosh, I'm good with that. I hate competition. Yeah, this is Paul. No, it's a
There's four more points.
okay, no, I'm just la calle. Make it so. Sit down. Okay. So anyway, Moshe Rabbeinu, here's the word of God. What does it mean? It means to say basically that he recognized that there was a God in the world. That's a great moment in life, where you really come to the notion that I believe in is real. He hears God's voice. When I hear God's voice, anybody hear God's voice? I hear it every day. Unless I'm nutty or delusional, I really do. I hear God instructing me, telling me what's right, what's wrong, telling me investigating my thoughts and my consciousness and so forth. Point is that what we want to accomplish here is that Moshe Rabbeinu senses the presence of the Almighty because he's open to it. Why is he open to it? That's the only time that something's going to happen in the life. How do you know he's open to it? Here's what happened. One chair just left for you.
Like you say, heavy.
That's right. Right. It's going to cost you. That's the expensive chair. How do we know that he's open? Take a look. Page 300. God, an angel of God appears in front of him in fire, in the bush, and he sees that this bush is burning and not burnt. You see that? Verse 3. Now, if you saw that, wouldn't you admit that that's a phenomenon?
Yeah.
You've seen phenomena in life. Don't you all stop? Imagine you're driving down the freeway and you see something like, whoa. So you slow down. You see an accident, you certainly slow down. Everyone rubbernecks. Right? You see someone else looks at everybody else's misfortune, right? Anyway, the point is that people do. I remember a phenomenon when I was about 16 years old. We were driving down the freeway once, and it was raining. And all of a sudden, it stopped raining. But it was too sudden to stop. So I said, wait a second, let's go back. So we went back. I was about 16. I was old to drive. I was hanging out with older guys. And we drove back and it was raining. And then we drove back again and it wasn't raining. I mean, you understand? It's an amazing thing, let's put it this way. If it's raining in California, it's not raining in Arizona. What does that mean? That means somewhere along the line, there is a stoppage of it, right? Like maybe over here's the spot, or over here's the spot, wherever it is, right? Understand? Imagine passing that spot. Whoa. I just standing there going, rain over there, no rain over there. Isn't that amazing? I mean, really, you see a fire, they stop burning. Isn't that amazing? Right. So some people would be interested. So it says over here, if you take a look at verse 3, Moshe said, I'm going to move and check this out. Is that what he did? In not so many words. I'm giving it the current vernacular, not the biblical vernacular, right? Let's check it out. Right? And look what verse 4 says. God saw that Moshe moved to see it, and then he called out to him, Moshe, and he said, here I am. What's happening? What's happening is that if God saw that Moshe moved to see it, which of course he did, because it says so, that means he also saw that there were a lot of other shepherds out there, or a lot of other flocks. And they didn't move.
They didn't see it.
who says? I say they saw it. I disagree with you.
No, I think it's similar to like when.
I think they saw, I think he saw it. They all saw it. But they were busy.
No, spiritually, I don't think they could see it. That's what I think.
Did they see a phenomenon?
Well, it didn't say that they saw.
I'm telling you they did.
Okay.
Now, you can argue with me. It's okay. It's a free country. Still America. But I believe in my heart of hearts that everyone saw it. But he, Moshe, distinguished, was the only one that said, I'm gonna move and figure this out. That is gonna happen. I'm gonna figure this out. Now, why didn't the other people move? They were busy. They had jobs, they had girlfriends, they had the finals and the exams, they needed to have a meeting, they needed to go here, they needed to go there, right? Like we all have to do, right? We're all busy people. They got the class, I gotta go to Phoenix or something, you know, I gotta go here, I gotta go there, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, right? Everyone's busy. Moshe Rabbeinu said, I don't care about my job. I don't care about my father-in-law. I don't care about my family. I don't care about anything. I'm gonna find truth. Because I'm living a life of total confusion. Like we all do. I'm born a Hebrew Jew. I'm brought up by an Egyptian mother. I'm in the palace with jewels and gold and silver. Wow, my brethren are suffering in mud. I find a Jew being hurt. I killed the Egyptian who did it. Right? And if we need more timelines, just pass them out. Need more timelines? Pass them out.
Do not have one of these, please.
So Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, I gotta find the truth. I gotta figure out my life. I gotta figure out what's going on. Because most of us just do what we do. Sleepwalking. Don't you see what we just do it? Who's thinking about what we're doing? Moshe Rabbeinu thinks every day. And he's miserable every day. Oh, he looks happy. He's nice to his wife. He's good to his kids. But he's miserable inside. Because why? Because he can't figure out his life. He's miserable. This could be the answer. A phenomenon, a message from on high, perhaps. God says, oh, you're interested. The other guys aren't, but you are. It says in the Parashas, Vayar Hashem Kisol wrote that God saw that he was interested to move. Look at it. The rest of them will come, will stay the rest of their lives with a bunch of funny nuts. But Moshe, we'll get it. Moshe will be strong. At that point in time, what happens? Moshe Rabbeinu is at the burning bush, which we call, by the way, at the beginning, Chorei. Remember all that? That's why I picked it out, right? And there, Moshe Rabbeinu gets this message from God, changes his life, and he's going to go and save the Jewish people, take them out of Egypt, as God has commissioned him to do. He'll argue with God, I don't think I'm the man for the job. He'll argue with God, maybe how will Paro listen to me? Who said the Jews are going to listen to me? How am I going to do it? Blah, blah, blah. In fact, by the way, just for your knowledge, they say, the Medrash, the Gemara teaches, that Moshe Rabbeinu stood there at the burning bush for 7 days. In this continuous conversation with God. And once again, unless he's speaking on a cell phone, it's a real conversation. But the point is that for these 7 days, Moshe Rabbeinu gets this commission and knows what he's got to do. But then God gives him one last message. I'm going to prove to you that I'm the truth. Because Moshe Rabbeinu is not so sure. This is a seminal moment. This is there's no what will do his life. Right? And as I told you earlier, I had such a moment in my life. I put it together in a week. But then again, it's not about me. But you decide what you want to do. And I think that at this point, Moshe Rabbeinu knows what he's going to do for the rest of his life. He's going to take the commission, take the troops out of Egypt, bring the troops to the customs of Eretz Israel, and bring the Torah down and do all these great things. But God, how do I know the truth? God talks to me, he's talking to me, this, that, and that, and I don't know the truth. And your mind said, I can do it. Among other things. This one truth of it. And he says as follows. He says over here, it says over here, 1 second. Okay, here it is. Moshe questions him in verse, turn the page to verse 11. Moshe says to God, Moshe talks back to God, and he says, who am I to do this job? Is that right? Am I reading right to it so far? All right? That's what he says. Who am I to do the job, right? So God says, because I'll be with you. Now, the real dialogue between Moshe and God at this point is a very interesting dialogue. When Moshe says, who am I? What he's really saying is, again, I'm fighting for my identity. I don't know who I am. I'm confused. Like all of us are. I'm born a Jew. I'm raised in Egypt. I'm the daughter of Paro's my mother, then Yochel's my mother, and somehow I'm not happy in the palace. I don't like Paro, and I don't like the Jews being slaves. I can't stand that. And I killed an Egyptian because he hurt the Jew. I got a lot of problems. And the Almighty says, then one we are. Okay, listen carefully. He says, look at it. Verse 11, who am I? Verse 12, I'll be with you. Do you hear that? You hear it again? Question. Verse 11, 302. 302, verse 11, 302. Look at it. Right? God says, who am I? Moshe says, who am I? God answers, I'll be with you.
Or I shall be with you.
What?
Yes, or I shall be.
Well, I shall be with you. So I don't understand for a moment. I'm a little confused there. How does the answer fit the question? How does the answer fit the question? The question is, who am I? The answer is, I'll be with you.
The chosen one.
So basically, you like piece of him.
So what you want to say that implies that you're the chosen one.
By Hashem being of the nature that he is.
Okay,
saying, I'll be with you.
right. But I like what you're saying, because what you're saying basically is he's got to answer the question as is. Let's not fool around with all hyperbole here. The answer is you're chosen. In other words, that's your identity, right? Okay, that's the point. Hold that thought. Again, what do you say?
I say maybe he said that because he's looking for guidance.
Right, but that's not what Moshe is looking for. Moshe is looking for yourself out. I wonder who I am. Who am I? Me Anochi. Who am I? That's Moshe's the problem here. So you say you're the chosen one. Okay, that's a good answer. How did you get to that? Because he said, I'll be with you. So the I be with you answer implies you're the chosen one. Well, something else. The I be with you answer implies about your identity. What does the I be with you answer help you to define who you are?
He's his creator.
Say again?
He's his creator.
I can't hear.
He's his creator.
That I'm your creator. Okay, so that helps you understand a little bit of your identity, where you're coming from. Oh, we're all sons of God, right? But that's the point. Okay, let's say that point again. And I'm sorry.
Hashem is speaking directly to them and
Telling him what?
that you'll be with him.
Yeah, but that doesn't help my identity. Help me who I am. So you're saying I'm the chosen one. You're saying that I'm your created. I'm your creature. You created me. Okay. So you give me some good answers.
Enlightenment.
I'm sorry?
Enlightenment.
I can't hear.
Messenger.
That you're my messenger. That you're a messenger. That okay. That's what he said. That you're chosen for the job. Right. Okay, you're chosen for the job. Which connects with what you're saying, Bridget, because what you're saying is that I created you, so therefore I can make you the chosen. And I can make you the chosen because I created you. So the answers are good. So I want to say a little bit extra. What do you want to say?
So I was thinking, so who am I in reference to? What definitions, right? So this is obviously the ultimate truth. This is Hashem is talking to.
Okay.
And saying that you will be with him. So you are a person who will have Hashem with you.
Okay.
And
But that doesn't help
it
you.
doesn't matter
But
who
it
you
doesn't-
are. He doesn't have,
Oh,
he's saying the question is no
okay,
longer.
okay. He wants to one, okay, let's see what he wants to say here. What he's saying here is, doesn't matter who you are. That's it, that's the third definition. Okay, identity. Who am I? I'm chosen. B, who am I? I was created from you. 3, C, doesn't matter.
Because you're someone who's connected to Hashem.
Okay, so now,
Who's the absolute.
okay, they're all 3 beautiful, great answers. Now, let me sum it up and see if you understand and why I understand. How did I understand it when I learned this? God told him, one of your dangerous. Nothing at all. Nothing. You were created by me. I made you, and I can take you away like that. You're chosen by me, and that's your job, you got no choice. And who you are means nothing. Right? You're nothing. Now, if you heard that as your definition, how would it make you feel?
Great.
Great? Okay, I'm not sure I feel like great, but okay. I mean,
What's our responsibility?
what?
Make you feel, take away from responsibility.
Well, okay, so how do you, okay, you know, I'm talking in terms of feeling good or bad. But
No wonder
here's,
I was.
but here's the real answer. The real answer is, you want to know who you are? You're nothing. Because I made you. And you're nothing because I'm choosing you. And you're nothing because it doesn't matter. But understand something. I'll be with you. Without me. With me. You're everything. Wow. Do you hear that? The difference between 0 and 100. God. If he's with you, with you're a 1. Without him, you're 0. Now you get an idea. Now this is no short. What?
I'm trying to order in how Moses.
It's handling
the
all this.
point. Yeah, they get to the point, you understand, you
Right, right.
chosen one. and-
Right. So here, okay, one second. So here he goes now, and he says, and again, which was some of the question I asked before. How do I know all this is true? So the Almighty said, okay, you want to know? You want to prove? Want proof? And I give you. Look what he says. He says in verse 12, because I'll be with you. And here's the sign, he says. And this is, read the words with me together. And this is your sign that I have sent you. This is your truth. When you take the people out of Egypt, you will serve God on this mountain. You're going to come back to this very same spot. That's my proof. You're going to come back to this very same spot. Now, I'm not sure how they had it in those days, whether it's maybe they had road signs or road. 10 miles to LA, 20 miles to San Diego. I don't know how they did it, how they found it in those days, but whatever it is, it's the same spot. Same spot.
40 years.
Well, okay, but no, it didn't. Not at all. It only took 49 days. But you understand the point. What happened here? What happened here is that Moshe was told by God. So up until this time that Moshe gets back to this mountain, and he's going to serve God on this mountain. What is this mountain called? We call it Chorei. We call it the mountain of the burning bush. It's also called Mount.
Sinai.
Thank you, Sinai. Been there on the mountain. See that? It's true. he's a verification of it. Yeah. Okay. Good point. So what's happening here? So God says, when you take the Jews out of Egypt, you're gonna come back here and you're gonna get the Torah and Mount Sinai and the mountain will be a place and all excitement. Now, up until the time that Moshe Rabbeinu did all this, did he believe or not believe? He goes into Egypt, confronts Pharaoh, gives him 10 plagues, kills the firstborn, does this, does that, and all this other stuff, right? And then at the end of the day, he takes the Jews out of Egypt, splits the sea, the Jews go through, the Egyptians drown, and he gets to Mount Sinai. Up until this time, he gets to Mount Sinai, and I said it's 49 days, right? Between Pesach and Shavuos, correct?
I guarantee he was drunk all night, every night, like what's happened to me.
He's drunk. He's drinking.
Drinking
He's having
a lot.
big- he's
He
having
didn't
big-
understand what's going on all
He's
day.
having Heineken's all night.
He didn't understand what happened all day. Like,
I'm not sure that he did.
I will.
Well, you're you and he's him. Okay, then let's put it in perspective. But let's understand something. What Moshe Rabbeinu did during this period of time, he still had a sense. In other words, once he got this commission, did he do what God told him? Did he go to Egypt and take the Jews out?
Yes.
Okay, so he's supposed to believe. But the ultimate sign and the ultimate proof and the ultimate truth is when? 49 days later. Which means what? Which means belief is a matter that grows inside a person. It doesn't happen in one moment. The initial belief, think about it now. You're attending class for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 10 months, right? Whatever it is. Isn't it a fact that you think a little differently now? Isn't it a fact that your concepts have grown, that your appreciation has grown? Isn't that true? That's what Moshe Rabbeinu is going through. He believes, there's no doubt. He's going to confront Paro unafraid. And he's going to win. And his belief will be stronger. And he sees the sea split, and his belief is stronger. But it's never stronger as the day gets back to Choreb. As the day gets back to Sinai. Okay, now this was a migration. It was not my intention to speak about that at all. But I couldn't, I just couldn't. I couldn't pass up a chance. It's just so good. I mean, it's so incredibly self-identifying and defining who I am in life. Who am I? I'm nothing. With God, you're everything. And now Moshe Rabbeinu needs to confirm that at Mount Sinai, getting back to Mount Sinai, the Choreb. Now at Choreb, you understand, amazing things happen. God appears. The 10 Commandments are given, right? And the Torah, and the people become, they all convert, they all say, we're willing to do the mitzvahs, they're all ready to move. Right, it's amazing. Okay. At this point, we spend a longer time than expected at Mount Sinai. And that's what this timeline is going to all be about. It's the timeline. How long did we spend in Sinai? So we're going to learn that we spent 1 year short 10 days. We're going to learn it in just a minute. But what's important to understand is that we had a delay. Well, the first delay was a 40-day delay. Well, the first delay was 49 days. Right, getting out of Egypt, going and getting to Sinai, to Shavuos, to the Torah. That was a delay of 49 days. Okay, but it was a positive delay. We need to do it. We need to get out of Egypt. We need to have 49 days of cleansing because we were 49 levels of purity. We all know how bad Egypt was. We had to get out. We weren't worshiping the Torah. Now we're ready to go. What happens after the 49 days? Well, Moshe Rabbeinu's got to go up to Mount Sinai and learn the whole Torah for 40 days. And we talked a lot about 40 on Sunday. How important the number 40 is. 40 is gestation of a child inside its mom. That's when the child develops. He is a child. And the idea that 40 days develops into a viable human being. 40 days is the time that it takes Moshe Rabbeinu to develop into the Torah scholar that he needs to be and learn the entire Torah from God to be able to disseminate it to all the people. Okay. But then there's more delay. Anybody want to tell me what that delay might be based upon what's in your timeline and based upon what we learned on Sunday? What happened? We worship the golden calf.
We worship the golden calf. We did a big mistake. We did a horrible thing. We abandoned God. Why did we abandon God? Because we found other opportunities, perhaps, such as the golden calf, which allowed us to do whatever we wanted, because God doesn't. Right? But in addition to that, we were a little impatient. We thought that Moshe Rabbeinu was late. How late was he? Says the Torah, Boshesh. There's no such word in Hebrew as Boshesh. Yet the Torah uses the word. So the rabbis teach, Rashi teaches that Boshesh means that the 6th hour came. And the 6th hour came, and he saw Moshe Rabbeinu was not ready. 40 days and 6 hours. 6 hours, he's late, he's dead. Forget about it. Give up the whole thing that you just went through, leaving Egypt and getting the Torah and everything else, and you give it all up because the guy's late 6 hours. Now, I agree, he shouldn't have been late. But then again, he wasn't. His name is Cal. Name is Cal. Huh? No, Bo Shesh means, if you might read the word, Bo Shesh, but they don't forget it. Right. So therefore, it says that he was like 6 hours, he really wasn't. In any event, they worship the golden calf, real dumb move. Moshe Rabbeinu comes down, and of course, you all know what he did on the 17th of Tammuz, which was 2 weeks ago. What did he do? I'm sorry, 3 weeks ago. Beg your pardon, 3 weeks ago. What did he do? He broke it. You break tablets, and you can't, it's like reading the Torah into a bathroom. That's how bad it is. You see the worship people over again. So, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu's got to get the people to do tshuva. We're going to talk about the timeline right now.
It's true they say it's will they become loose.
Nah, it's baloney. He did it willingly, purposefully. Boom. He wanted to do it. He wanted to break them. Says the first word from Yashar Koach. What's the Yashar Koach? Kolakov. Who's in it? That's right. He's right. Kolakov. Absolutely. You did the right thing. You did the right thing because the beauty of Torah cannot be compromised in a garbage dump. That's what a golden calf is. It's a garbage dump. So therefore, he did the right thing. But again, there's another chance. We talked about the other chance on Sunday too, about doing tshuva and the opportunity for tshuva and so forth. Anyway, let's so now we all know that the Har Sinai is Choreb, it's the same place in the burning bush. Right? 2 events happen in the same place, and that's God's proof and that Moshe Rabbeinu that it's all the truth. Okay, let's take a look at our timeline. Right? Who needs one? You got one? Here's the timeline. Let's look at the timeline. Everyone got? Okay, let's look at that. Hold on. Okay, date. Nisan 15 is Pesach. The event that happened on that day, and there's the first year 1, right? Year 1 of leaving Mitzrayim. Follow me. We leave Mitzrayim. We have a Pesach Seder for the first time, and we begin to count the Omer. That's your 49 days, right? Okay. Nisan 22, 7 days later, which is Shvi'i Pesach. That's a Shvi'i 7, right? That's when Hashem split the sea. Now, throughout the entire month of Iyar coming up, we continued to count the Omer. And we completed the 49 days on Shavuot, which is on 6. On 6. Yeah, I'm sorry. On 6 Sivan. Let's go now to Sivan 1. Sivan 1 is Rosh Chodesh. Oh, sorry. Sivan 1 is Rosh Chodesh. Is that right? That's the day we arrived at Mount Sinai. But that's not the day the Torah was given. Nor was it the day that the 49 days was complete. Follow? Right, so on. It makes sense? Okay. So, Rosh Chodesh Sivan, we arrive at Mount Sinai. Sivan 3 days later, husbands and wives were required to separate because now is going to come a holy moment of God's revelation to all the Jewish people. Sivan 6, oh, the big day. The day that made us who we are. The day that we're here today for that reason. The day that's the day that made us Jewish. Shavuot, the giving of the Torah, the revelation, the 10 commandments. Moshe sends to Mount Sinai to learn the whole Torah. That's when we all became a people. Up until then, we were a group of Hebrews.
What did we do? What did all of us do on the 6th of Sivan that year? Anybody? What did we know what God did. God gave us the 10 commandments, God revealed himself. We said Na'aseh v'nishma. So what did we all do when we said Na'aseh v'nishma? What did we do?
You can't do it.
We converted. We converted. That's what conversion is all about. Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do whatever you say. V'nishma. And we'll hear about it later. Now, of course, that's a great statement. When we do a conversion ceremony, we ask the candidate, do you know all the 613 mitzvot? The candidate's not on all 613, but that's okay. Are you willing, we say to the candidate, to accept all of the mitzvot, sight unseen, even though you don't know them now? Maybe you know 100 of them, maybe you know 200 of them, whatever. Are you willing to accept them all now, based upon what you know, even though you'll learn about them later, when you accept them as of today, upon yourself? The candidate has to respond, Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do whatever you say, v'nishma, and we will listen. When we listen, we will learn about it. We do want to learn about it. We do want to become informed. Oh, we'll do it? Uninformed is necessary. That's called a commitment. That's called conversion. That's called Na'aseh v'nishma. Every Jew at Mount Sinai on that day did it. Every subsequent convert throughout history, to this very day, does the same thing. How do we know how to do a conversion ceremony? Based upon how it's been done through the centuries, in the same fashion. In which we said, do you accept those mitzvot that you don't know? And then when we hear this positive response, we go further with the conversion. And that's what happened on Shavuot. But guess what? Can someone tell me, based upon what you see in this paper, how many days elapsed between 6 Sivan and 17 Tammuz, the very next statement? How many days? 40.
17.
And those are the 40 days that Moshe Rabbeinu spent on Mount Sinai, right? So, 6 means the next day after, would be the 7th day. That means the 7th, if God appeared to Shavuot the 6th day, means that Moshe Rabbeinu went up the 7th day, came down the 17th of Tammuz, which is 40 days later. That's an important lesson to learn. Not only is it important to know that Moshe Rabbeinu needed 40 days to learn the whole Torah, but it's also noticed that that's the day that they blew. Hang on one second. That's the day they blew it. Took them 40 days to blow it. How many times does the situation occur where people accept upon themselves to do the mitzvot, and then 40 days later, they forget, they ignore, they neglect. But you were told not to worship idols. You were told to keep Shabbat. You were told to eat kosher. 40 days later, up went the idol, down went the Shabbat, down went the kashrus in 40 days. What? They were told, first of all, they were told not to do it with a but they all do idolatry, right? But also in addition to that, Shabbat was totally in place, correct? Because Shabbat was in place from the time they gave the money. When God said, go out and collect the money every day, but
Double portion, not part of it.
because you're not going to collect on Shabbat. So Shabbat was already known before the Torah was given. And Kashrut, the moment the Torah was given, they didn't have to make meat properly, didn't have a show. That's why we eat dairy on Shavuot, because we didn't know how to have meat on Shavuot, because nobody knew how to keep the law of kosher, which had just been given to us. So everything was lost. So Moshe Rabbeinu says you're not entitled to the Torah. Bang! Down go the tablets. Now, take a look at the next entry. Av 28. Now, of course, these months are in order, correct? Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av. Av 28. How many days elapsed between Tammuz 17 and Av 28? Another 40. So we learned all Sunday, right? Back to broke this up for you in the timeline. Another 40 days elapsed. What do we do in 40 days with tshuva? In other words, if you took you 40 days to mess up, it's going to take you 40 days to do tshuva. You've got to fix this up. Now you got this chance. We talked about tshuva on Sunday. We said it's not reasonable. The man does what he does. He messes up. He messes up. That's life. We said if you sleep in a bed that you
bed you sleep is the bed you made. And if that's the way you conduct your life, you messed up, you messed up. I have a friend of mine, he takes me to the gym all the time, he's a great guy, a sweet guy, a good friend, a great friend. He's not from, and his son is gonna marry a guy, and I'm thinking of conversion, and his life's over. He'll never have Jewish grandchildren, he's finished. And I really feel bad for him, like, we try to avoid the conversation, if I talk with him about it, again, I don't want to get caught on the argument, he's a sweet guy, we're good friends, But he's finished. And one day he finds out his grandchildren are Jewish, his guy now, his boy, and then the children aren't Jewish, whatever it is. And then he fixed this up. Well, they're probably going around my block and trying to get a conversion or something, Of course, I'm not sure how long Rabbi Box will continue to work, I might decide to go to retirement, You play with fire, you get burned. You mess up, you mess up. But guess what? In stands the Almighty and says, you can do tshuva, you can change, you can repent, you can make it better. Remember all that non-kosher food, Jay? It's all finished. You're kosher now. You can fix it. You can do tshuva. But it's that work, hard work. How much work? For as much work as it took to mess up with the golden calf, that's how much days you need tshuva. 40 days? 40 days. So now, when is tshuva over? Completion of the 40 days of tshuva, when they can get another chance for another set of tablets? Off 28. Are you looking at this? Well, I'm 28, Katie. I'm 28. You think you're the only guy? Well, I gotta put that in. I'm 28. Is the end of you'll notice, by the way, in this timeline, Tisha B'Av doesn't appear, and you'll see why in just a moment. Anyway, Av 28 comes. They all do tshuva. They're all sorry. Av 29, Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Okay, I'm going to talk to God." And the next very day, one Elul, Rosh Chodesh, God says, "Come back to me for another 40 days of opportunity to get a new set of tablets and do tshuva and get a chance at it. You can fix things up."
Why back in the days we need 40 days, but now if you want to get tshuva, you can do it in 1 day.
1 second.
That's a good one.
When does the Shuva say?
Shuv yom echad lefnei mitatcha. That's what it says. Do tshuva one day before you die. Okay, so let's all go now and party. Let's all party, guys. Let's have a grand time. Let's have fun. There must be a bar around the corner here somewhere, and let's have a grand time.
You cannot do that if you want. You're not
Oh,
doing
right.
it.
Right. So it says, "Echtev hashuv," and must speaking. The guy says, "I'm going to sin and then do tshuva," right? He plans on sinning and he plans to do tshuva, right? The tshuva's not going to work. Okay, we all know that. That's right. The only problem is, folks, if he's right, and he is, that you're going to tshuva in 1 day before you die. You never know when you're going to die. Which means you have to do it now. Because who knows what tomorrow can bring? You understand? So that's your point. But the point is, the 40-day thing is a little bit more than 1 day, because the 1 day, what it does is it cleanses you, but the 40 days gives you more than cleansing. It gives you a chance at living again. The Jew, Yom Echad, the die, the 1 day before you die, and then you die. Then you did tshuva for more than bad stuff, but you never had any life left to do any good stuff. But now in 40 days, you can do good stuff with it also. It's not enough just to avoid bad. And what can you do good that's contributive? You understand? So, you need another 40 days. So Moshe Rabbeinu goes up in Elul 1. Elul 1 is Rosh Chodesh. And what did the people do? Follow my timeline. What did the people do in the desert at the time to prevent themselves from making the same mistake? It's right there, right on your face. What does it say? They blew the shofar.
by blowing the shofar, right? Shofar's an alarm. It's an alarm. Blow the shofar every day. We do it now. Every year, when Elul arrives in synagogue every day, we blow shofar. Right? Now, Moshe Rabbeinu was up there for 40 days. Now watch these 40 days. These are the most important 40 days of your whole life. Every year. From Elul 1 to Tishrei 10, I got 40 days. You see those 40 days. Those are the 40 days that brings you to the day of Yom Kippur. Moshe returned to the town for 40 days, and there's a forgiveness. But for the forgiveness, the word has got to be 40 days. So now annually, Yom Kippur is the day we shrine for forgiveness. We talked about this. What does that mean? That means that annually, we've got to have an Elul. If you think you can walk into synagogue of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Tishrei without an Elul, you're nuts. You have nothing. You're walking empty-handed. If you're not improving and changing your Elul, as I said on Sunday, the great Rabbi Feinstein, Moshe's great promotion, our used to say, when the Chazan would announce the coming of Elul on a Shabbat morning, from the women's side, we heard a cry. Women would understand how serious it's not. It's your life at stake, folks. What's going to happen next year, life or death, success or failure, is all going to be determined on Rosh Hashanah together. And if you're not worried, you're nuts. And frankly, what?
Are the women, the wives, are they weeping for their husbands?
They're weeping, there's even that. Some women are weeping for their husbands. Point is that Yom Kippur is the big day. It's the day of forgiveness. It's when truth can really happen. I can really change. I can become somebody different. I can do different. Which means I'm like Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu leads this confused life, and all of a sudden one day, at this total seminal moment, you could have a seminal moment every year, every Yom Kippur. Feel that change come over. Feel that sense of hopelessness. Now, of course, nobody's going to be holy the whole year like he is in Yom Kippur. He does the best he can. Fine. But at least on the day, is that one?
Yeah, it is.
How dare you do that? You know that I can't do this right now, and I'm going to be rude. Goodbye. It's so much fun to be rude on the phone. I have so much fun being rude. I can't begin to say. Ah, so much fun.
Unless it's your wife.
Oh, I'm sorry. Holy moly. Right. Okay. Anyway, the point is that once again we say these are the 40 days. I mean, it happened then, and it became the same 40 days forever and ever in history. And that's this timeline right now. Now, right after Yom Kippur happened, we all got the tablets again, the Torah again. Moshe Rabbeinu, it's a new lease on life, a new chance, new opportunity. We all did tshuva. To be perfectly honest, there is a little bit of how shall I say it, a loss. What's the loss? The loss was that the tablets, the second tablets, were not as holy as the first. And it's something you gotta pay for. You gotta pay for something. You made a mistake, gold kid, you gotta pay. You gotta pay something. But you got new tablets. Be grateful. Right? New chance. And so we move on. And 5 days later, we begin to build the Mishkan. And that's why nowadays, 5 days later, we begin to build the same idea. Okay. The Mishkan was completed 2 months later, 2 months and 10 days to be exact. From Tishrei 15 to Kislev 25, we finished the Mishkan on Hanukkah. Hanukkah would become a holiday centuries later, years later, with the story of the Maccabees, where they rededicated the temple on Hanukkah. So in other words, this day, the 25th of Kislev, was an important day, but not then. Not then. Because we waited all the way to the next year. Come will be the year 2 now. Right? Nisan 1. Nisan 1, the Nisim of Rosh Chodesh. The dedication ceremony is opening the Mishkan. We complete the ceremonies in 12 days because we have 12 tribes and each day celebrates. Okay? 12 Nisan is now the completion of the dedication ceremonies, the opening of the Mishkan. 3 days later, we celebrate. Come on, folks. The second Pesach. Right. Right, so we got annually, we're gonna do Pesach annually. This is our first annual Pesach. And a savor and excitement and joy, right? And 7 days. But then a month later, in ER 14, there is an opportunity brought that develops for those that couldn't bring the Pesach sacrifice on time. They have a second chance. Why couldn't they bring it on time? Maybe they were impure, maybe they were far away. Now, of course, if they willfully denied Pesach and just didn't do it, then there's no second chance. But if you have a certain, right, but if a circumstance occurs, if the difficulties happen, you know you have a second chance. Once again, the concept of tshuva, essential to our people. I have another thought, this is not for now, but I really believe that the opportunity for tshuva does not really exist in the non-Jewish world. They really can't make the changes. I'll present that some other time. It's okay. You don't speak Hebrew, it's not the end of the world.
Rabbi, how would that work with Bilam? Did he not teach them that they could do that?
No, in fact, Bilam himself didn't want to go. That's why Bilam
He
done.
didn't do it. Remember, he said, don't go.
That's right. They was given out the opportunity. So I think this Pesach Sheni is another example of opportunity that Hashem presents to his people whom he loves. He says, you know, I mean, how often do you forgive a child in French? No.
I don't have kids yet.
Okay. How often did your parents forgive you?
They still love me.
Then obviously very good for you. That's right. I mean, Jeremy, I mean, if we're here today, that means they must have put up with a whole lot, right? How much your parents put up? Yours. Arr. I can tell you, my mother, she should live and be well for 120 years, put up a lot. She certainly. But then I became somewhat of a decent person, so I guess it must be work, you know. Yes.
Oh, but the truth of Shuvah, the meaning and everything, isn't that supposed to be on a daily thing? Even if.
Yeah, but people slip back.
No, but even if you are doing it, right?
Right.
Even you're slipping and so on, you gotta keep on saying, listen, I'm
Of
not,
course, you're
I'm
right.
not great.
You're constantly, of course. Don't take any pride in yourself.
Right.
Right, 100%. But be aware of the fact that you are improving and be grateful for that opportunity.
Right.
So, Pesach Sheni comes and goes. Now take a look at this ER 20. Take a look at ER 20. Leading Mount Sinai to Kadesh Barnea and Eretz Yisrael. That happens 6 days after Pesach Sheni. Based upon this, tell me, how long were the Jews at Koreh at Mount Sinai? Figure it out, right in front of your face.
80.
2 days.
I don't know.
What are you nuts?
86, no?
When did they arrive? The year before they arrived. They arrived before Rosh Chodesh Sivan, it says here. How much?
1 year, 20 days.
1 year less 10 days. Look at it. Come on.
That's what you said at the opening of your shiur. You said 10 days less than a year.
That's what I said. Everybody's paying attention. Oh, Michael, that's right. Okay. So what did we learn from here? We learned that the Jews had a delay at Mount Sinai. And the delay, understand, cost them that they had to stay nearly a year. That's 10 days. And then left for Kodesh Barnea. Would you hold this in your hand, please? Keep your finger on where it is and look at it inside. Would you see where it says it says 11 days trip from Chorev to Kodesh Barnea. You see that on verse 2? The 11-day trip? No, Moshe Rabbeinu is what is he? He's recalling these issues. He's recalling these events. He wants you to remember them. He's telling you, remember that we had took this 11-day trip. The only problem is, folks, in my timeline, it says arrive in 3 days. Let's see. It's a direct contradiction of what the Torah says. The Torah says it's 11-day trip, and all of a sudden you see for 3 days. From ER 20 to 20. Now, how do we reconcile this? Let me explain. If you go further from year 22 to Sivan 22, that's a 30-day month. That 30 days was a time of meat. That was the 30 days in which there was a desire for meat. It was called Kivrota Ta'ava, was the place of Kodesh Barnea, where the Jews had this, all of a sudden, I don't like this manna that you're giving us from heaven. I don't like this food. I don't like that. I don't want this. I don't want that. I want meat. You want meat, says God? You're not happy with the one tastes like? Everybody knows that the one tastes like exactly what you want, and I give it over.
No, not everybody had that good taste.
Well,
There's some people who didn't have that level where they.
that's because they were desirous,
They go a little bit,
right? And so therefore, the mind says, okay, I'm gonna eat 30 days, so it comes out of your nose.
He was still in.
Disgusting. I don't want any more. Sit in front of the bring a delicious plate of good food, you know, eat 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. I won't even take that. I can see the same Chinese food. What else do you like? Steak, steak, right? Enough, 10 days of steak. I'm not 10 days steak. I'm doing 9 days of fish. I'm going out of my mind. So God says 30 days. 30 days are over. Sivan 29, Sivan 22, and all of a sudden Miriam speaks Lashon Hara about her brother. We all know about the story, right? And she was quarantined for 7 days because everybody knows that Lashon Hara is a social disease which people do not deserve to be with other people when they stand to each other. So they go away for 7 days. For 7 days, like Shiva, God forbid. 7 days is like a death. When you're away from these people alone, it's like you're dead. And so therefore, she's away for 7 days. But guess what? She's still honored. We talked about this a few months ago. She's still honored and people wait for her because she's the reason we have water. In fact, she's the reason we have Moshe Rabbeinu in the first place. Because she convinced her parents to have another child. Who didn't want the child? Because why? Because in Egypt, when you were having children, what did the Egyptians do to your baby? So therefore, they decided to forget this. And she said, I promise that you have a baby, that baby's going to take us out of here. And so, mother and father listened to their daughter, and their baby, Moshe Rabbeinu took us out of it. So everybody knows Miriam is a great lady. She made a mistake. People make mistakes all the time. You have to get punished. The punish, yes, that's true. You have to get punished. You have to be told off. You have to be suffer. But that suffering cleanses you. She be a whole different person. Mary returns to camp. She returns to camp on the 29th of Sivan. On the very same day, the spies leave Israel. 40 days later, they return. On which day? Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. 40 days, right there. The timeline right in front of your face. And they come back with a bad report of Eretz Yisrael. And this bad report was the 10th and final test, the 10th and final challenge that God was doing. Okay, now there's a limit. There's no forgiveness anymore. Oh wait, there is a little bit of forgiveness, but there's going to be a lot of suffering because now the Jews will not go into Israel for 40 years. Every day that the spies were in Israel, we punished a year of wandering. 40 years, 40 days, 40 days, 40 years. But what's interesting about it is that God also said everybody over 20 will die. The youngest person to go into Israel 40 years from now will be 59. Everybody on 20 will die. This means that during those 40 years, there'll be annual deaths. And when will those annual deaths happen? Every year, it'll happen on Tisha B'Av, on the 9th of Av. This horrible, tragic day that's coming in front of us tomorrow, Saturday night, Sunday, was started because of the spies. Because when the spies came back and said a negative report about Israel, the people cried, were frightened, and didn't want to go. The Almighty said, "What are you crying for? Crying for nothing. I told you about Egypt. I can't take it to Israel. Cry for nothing. Hardly something to cry for." And for the rest of history, the 9th of Av will always be a tragedy and suffering in the history of our country. And that's why during this period of time we said, we should let the surgery if necessary, push it away. It's not a good time for surgery. People should not go into court if they have a court case. It's not a court case.
No, when is it?
Right now, right now. These 9 days.
Till when?
Until after Tisha B'Av.
How many days from now?
You have a case.
Saturday night.
When's the case?
No, I have a flight.
Oh, when? Oh, no. Give me where you going?
That's right.
Oh, thank you.
Come on.
Okay. Hello, George.
I have a question, bro.
Yeah.
You said that every year of those 40 years on Tisha B'Av,
People,
die, but how would that make sense if they're all 19, if anyone over 20?
they didn't die at the same time.
Oh, it was just random, it was. just
Right. And we don't understand random because Hashem did it.
random
But the
knowledge.
point is that everybody remembers from Sunday I taught this, that everybody, every Tisha B'Av night during those 40 years in the desert would dig their own grave, right? Those that got up in the morning would push those that didn't into the grave. I mean, it's pretty right. Anyway. So now I want to go back to this 11 days, 3 days. Torah says 11 days, I say 3 days. Now, I didn't say Rashi says, but I don't think I would dare disagree with the Torah. The reason that happens is because Rashi wants to say that it was an 11-day trip that miraculously was condensed into 3. We call that in Hebrew, Yitzat Aderech. You know the expression? Yitzat Aderech. The expression. It's when you're able to go quickly, right? You're able to make you make San Diego. That's right. You move fast. You get it going. And you're able to make San Diego an hour and a half. Something silly like that. But an 11-day trip was condensed into 3. Well, let's put it this way. The early Zionists that loved Israel in the late 1800s and early 1900s and made a trek from Europe, from Russia, and from Germany, and from all those European countries to Israel. How long did it take them to get to Israel? Most of the average people, at least 2 to 3 years. You gotta travel here, travel there, you get a horse wagon, and maybe you get a boat. We're talking about the late 1800s, the early 1900s. Today, you go to Israel, 10 hours, 15 hours. Boom, you're there. Imagine. If you think about it, it's a chutzpah. How we take advantage of this opportunity. Oh, we're going to Israel, I don't know what. Now, of course, Israel got smart, close to everybody. But think about it. You love Israel? You really do? Are you ready to dedicate the next 3 years of your life to go there? Are you ready to go and travel for 3 years? In horse and buggy? You love Israel so much that you do, right? So today, I'm a big avid fan of Israel. I want to go so bad. 15 hours. Oh, it's so long on a plane. 15 hours. Right? And you blink an eye, and you didn't come up here. Oh, I'm just in LA, moment. Blink an eye. An 11-day trip took 3 days. What is God mentioning here? What God's trying to say is the following. I want you to go to Israel badly. That's the goal of leaving Egypt in the first place. And guess what? You guys blew it. I took an 11-day trip and I turned it into 3 days, and I brought you there, and guess what you did? You had problems with me, and then after that, Miriam had to say Lashon Hara, and then the spies go out. And you messed up the whole thing. You were ready to go down to Israel 3-4 months ago. What's the matter with you? That's why this timeline's important. And one extra added point about this timeline is the connection. Take a look at this, based on C1 29 between, you see C1 29 twice? Someone see it? Miriam returns to the camp, the spies leave Israel on the same day. What's the significance of that? The significance is people don't learn a lesson. You just saw Miriam say bad words about her brother, and she didn't mean to say that. She tried to help him. She loves her brother, right? And she still get punished. Now the spies go out the very same day, and they come out with the same Lashon Hara 40 days later. And he asks yourself a question. Don't you think the lesson? Didn't you see how people got themselves messed up? Miriam got herself messed up. What do you mean? Put wall on your head? Does the crazy Israeli government need a brick wall to fall on their head to realize that another 5 years, we're going to have another fight with Gaza? And another 3 years with Gaza, and another 10 years with Gaza, over and over and over again, someone to stop. Don't you know that? It's never gonna stop. Never! Oh, we're gonna negotiate the peace. They signed the Oslo Accords in 1993. Most of you weren't even born in 1993. Oslo Accords. What are we gonna figure out? How does it take us to figure out? Don't you understand? If you see Miriam say Lashon Hara about her brother, and you see her publicly get punished and publicly humiliated, wouldn't you think twice about doing it yourself? And then you come back 40 days later and say all this nastiness about the land of Israel. That's the significance of not learning a lesson from someone else's mistake. Smart people learn from others' mistakes. Stupid people learn from their own mistakes. Okay. So that's the significance of that same day. Now, all this that I'm telling you is in the Parsha, in the word Devarim. Where's Devarim? Harsh words. Who's speaking the harsh words? Well, let me tell you something. I guess the best way to tell it to you is to go to verse 3. Verse 3. It is the 40th year. You see it, the 40th year. That means what? That means the 40 days, the 40 years, the punishment is over. Right? That means we're ready to go. On the cusp of Eretz Yisrael, right here, we're ready to go. And what day is it? It is the 11th month, the first of the month of Chodesh. Now, it's not in this timeline, so you can't cheat. Who wants to tell me the name of the 11th month in the Jewish calendar? So if you're starting from Tishrei, so then it's Av. But if you're starting, right, you're starting with Tishrei, then it's Av. But if you're starting from Nisan, then what month is it? No, you're close. No, Shvat. Shvat. Now, we gave our timeline on Sunday by saying, even though the year starts with Tishrei, the world becomes a year older because that's what the world was created. For us as Jews, it's not so. For us as Jews, the Rosh Hashanah, the new year, is Nisan and Pesach, and we became a year older as a people. So therefore, clearly, there's no doubt that Pesach and Nisan is the first month. So I go from Nisan to Iyar to Sivan to Tammuz to Av to Elul. I did it wrong. Come on, I'm messing up, folks. Correct me. Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, Tishrei. Okay, I got it right now. Tishrei is 7. Sometimes I forget how to keep. Okay, Tishrei is 7, right? Now, next month of Tishrei is Cheshvan, that's 8, right?
But nothing in there, right?
Nothing in it, right? Now we go to what's Cheshvan Kislev, right? We got Kislev over the coming. That's number 9, right? Then Tevet is number 10. What's number 11? Shvat.
You froze again.
I froze? I never. Okay. Moshe Rabbeinu never got there to Israel. If this is the 40th year, can you expect Moshe Rabbeinu's passing to be imminent? He's gonna die, right? Does anybody know? It's a trick, a hard, not a trick, but it's a hard question. You gotta know this. It's a good Jewish trick here. How many people know Moshe Rabbeinu's Yortzeit? When did he die?
7th of Adar.
Oh, Zach's comes through. 7th of Adar. Which means if this is the first of Shvat, and the next month is Adar, and he's going to die on the 7th of Adar, how many days does he have left to live?
37.
37. This whole book was written by Moshe Rabbeinu in 37 days. I want to make this impression. This whole book, there's not, very, even though the concept of God spoke to Moshe and Moshe told the people does not appear in this book at all. In this book, it's all Moshe talking. It's all Moshe reviewing the Torah. We're going to talk about next week how he reviews the 10 Commandments and reviews this and reviews that. The whole thing's reviewed. So what are we saying here? We're saying that Moshe Rabbeinu, this is the whole soliloquy, his whole speech. Speaking for 37 days. 37 days speech. Obviously, people are paying attention. It's Moshe Rabbeinu. It's not some guy in sweet block. Oh, no, big guy, Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is going to talk for 37 days. And it's going to die. So I ask you the following question. If you knew you had 37 days to live, what would you do with those 37? What would you do? 37 days to go, except all you got. All you got is 37 days.
You would secure the future.
But he did it right. He did Shuva. In the process, he wrote a book. He cashes in on everyone else.
You're right, you're right. And you're productive 37 days. But what's remarkable about it, okay, it's all about the legacy. It's all about what we do for this.
Right. He goes ahead and does the Garden Torah, does everything out, and they do it. It's cool.
Okay.
He gets a marriage.
He's not thinking that way. He's thinking about his people. He's thinking about his children. When you have children, my friend, you don't think about school. You think about your kids. You think about their future, your hopes for them. You're not worried about your own food.
Yeah, but then you know that what's gonna happen is when you get older, your kids are gonna take care of you. So,
Is that the reason you have kids? Let me hear this again. Let me hear this again. The whole reason you had kids is because
they can take care of you.
the girls would help with the mothers with the dishes and the boys would take the garbage out. That's why I had kids. Come on. We have kids because you want to find someone. Pleasure in keeping love. We're gonna look for love. We're gonna want to get love. That's not love.
I want to see a better version of you
It's unconditional.
versus conditional. It's a very big.
And that's love. Love has nothing to do with, love has everything to do with giving to another. In fact, it has nothing to do with self at all. If you're in love with someone, it doesn't matter whether you get love back or not. Of course, getting love back is a bonus. That's nice. Be loved back too, you know. But the essence is because you really care about someone. I know that you got a boyfriend, a little buddy, this and that, whatever. But you love him. What are you gonna do? He's a little goofy here. I know your girlfriend's this, that, but what are you gonna do? You're in love, you know. Love is the concept that you see your children make 1,000 mistakes and do one thing right. The only thing you remember is the one thing. And so really, friend, if you think about it, and I once gave this class, I'm going to get it if you want to, but then I'm pushing on it. The 8 steps of love that I've written up, you will notice that husbands and wives do not fall in love, or do not really experience love before marriage at all. They're on the way to love. They're moving towards love. And that's not love. Now, of course, you don't know that until you get married. Then all of a sudden you see the difference. Oh my God, Black was right. Yeah, Rabbi, you know something, right? But more than that, you know when you first find real love? When you have your first child. That's when you know. That's when. So we're married, we're so excited, we're kidding, I'm dancing, we're happy. I don't want to belittle it. I mean, it is a nice moment in life. Don't get me wrong, but the reality is when you live together and you share together, and you share a child together, and you share a trip together. That's what you know. And I think that's important to know here too. Moshe Rabbeinu has love for his people. It's no different than the unconditional love that he has for us. Because he puts up with our nonsense. He puts up with our garbage. He puts up with all the wrong things we do, and the mistakes we make, and he puts up with it. Because you know why? God loves us. Isn't it nice? That's the whole point. He expects you to do the same thing. We did. Now, hold on one second. Moshe Rabbeinu spends the next 37 days of his life without a self-care at all. I don't care about me. I don't care what I'm going to go to heaven, God bless me, I'm going to walk to God, whatever, doesn't matter. I got to keep my feet. Because Moshe Rabbeinu hasn't had many opportunities to develop himself, and he let it go because he cared for his people. Now, we understand that this love that Moshe Rabbeinu has, especially these last 37 days, what does he do with these 37 days? He writes a book, and he teaches, and he shares all review of mitzvahs, and adds some new ones that have already been taught but need to be written. But you know what he does? He does Devarim, words, harsh words. He tells you straight between the eyes. Tells you like the shape when you hear what he says, you understand? Because you gotta know what real life is all about. And that's what a father tells his child. And that's what Hashem is telling us. And Moshe Rabbeinu is giving us 37 days of his last words to say, be strong, don't mess up. And in fact, in order to make sure you don't mess up, I'm going to remind you of when you did. And I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to tell you off. And I'm going to tell you strong. Devarim, tochacha, proof and reproof, and scolding. If I had a dollar every time my father, blessed memory, scolded me, I'd give it to him. I wasn't the best recipient. Of course, you think back now and say, thank you, Father, for giving me the right path. And but at the time you're a kid, you're 10 years old, your father's telling you how you messed up, and you listen. And then, you know, but that's the idea. The idea is that can we accept being told off and embrace it and say, thank you. Thank you for telling me off. Thank you for scolding me. Thank you for giving me musar. Thank you for, we say, a selach harab, get a rabbi, and buy a friend. A friend, that's a buy. You know why? Because a rabbi, you don't have to buy. You get it. If he doesn't want to, you get another rabbi. But a friend, he may not want to be a friend, you buy it. You know why? You don't have to buy a rabbi, but you got to buy a friend, because a friend's more important. Because a friend will tell you off. The rabbi's afraid. There's already feelings. But a friend will tell you straight out you messed up. And you need to hear that. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu is telling these people. You need to hear these words. So let me tell you about these words real quick, because it's late. Verse 1. Remember all those places concerning the wilderness of the Arabah and the Sea of Reeds and Paran and Tophan and Lavan and Chazeres and Dizahav? Those are the places you messed up. Look at the last one, Dizahav. What does the word Zahav mean in Hebrew? Gold. Right? What is he saying? He's saying, look, There's no such place as the Zahav anywhere in the world. But you did a mess up with Zahav. You messed up with that golden calf, and I remember reminding you. And remember what happened in Paran, where you messed up with the spies. And remember in Tofel, where you messed up and you were unhappy with the man with the food, and on and on and on. All these places were different spots. I don't want to go into details. You can go through it yourself, read the commentary. Different spots are different mistakes. And Moshe Rabbeinu tells them all. Which means we call this veiled rebuke. It means I'm going to tell you off, but I'm going to wait to embarrass you. I'm going to tell you off, but I'm not hurt your feelings. Moshe Rabbeinu says I'm going to speak harshly. And you're pretty dumb if you don't get the message. I mean, if I tell you gold and you don't want the golden calf, I mean, there's a disconnection here, you know? So he's saying to me, I'm going to tell you off. But I'm not going to tell you straight. I'm going to tell you in a hinting manner. I'm going to say it in a way that will not hurt your feelings. Oh, that's enough. Para. Spies. I'm not saying spies. I'm saying para. And you get the idea. You get it? The idea is to say, yes, you need to be told off, and Moshe Rabbeinu will do it for us for the next 37 days, but he will do it in a kindly and a sweet and in a loving manner. And we'll accept it because we know he loves us, because he's spending the next 37 days of his life with us. So when you hear someone tell you off, if he's just telling you off because he likes to insult you, berate you, punch him in the nose. But if he tells you something because he loves you, he tells you something because why? He wants you to become better. He wants to help you grow. And he does it in a way which doesn't directly insult you. Then what? What you do is you process it in your head and you get the message, use the message, but more than that, you're grateful with love for he who has done to you. And that's the point of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu tells you off, tells you in a veiled manner, tells you not in a direct manner, and you're able to process this without being defensive, without being looking for excuses, without for justifications. No, I'm honest. You honest with me? We're told in human relations that people are not allowed to hate their brothers with their heart. So it's not about that. What does it mean to hate someone in the heart? Hate. Let's hate hard. Hate means that I hate you in my heart, but I'm going to look nice at you, and I'm going to be flattered with you because I'm afraid of confrontation. Video, and that is forbidden. You have to. If someone insulted you, you have to say it. You may not want to punch him in the nose or insult him back, but you have to say, look, that was inappropriate. That was unfair. That wasn't right. It may be in a personal relationship, family relationship, maybe in a business relationship. You have to say it straight. The confrontation fact, which we are so afraid of in America because we're afraid of being rude, does not work with us. We feel and believe that if you have something to say it. Say it nicely. Say it, you know. I had a problem with a neighbor, and this neighbor, I called him up this morning on an issue. And I said to him, I think that what you're doing here is a violation of mitzvah number, whatever the mitzvah is. And that's what I did. He said, thank you very much. And that's it. But that's the way to do it. So you get an idea of what Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to do. This is the book of Devarim. It's a book that will follow us through the rest of the year, till Rosh Hashanah, till Yom Kippur, till Simchas Torah. We will conclude it then. This will be a book of reviewing all the Torah and hearing Moshe Rabbeinu's harsh words in a veiled fashion. We will find many mitzvahs that are new, but we will find them as having been taught before, but not written before. So nothing new in this book, and it's all Moshe Rabbeinu. And it's the essence of really, when I talk about belief, I go to test people about 13 principles of faith. And we talk about believing in God and believing in the Torah, this and that. We also believe very strongly in Moshe Rabbeinu. He's big. Now, he's not the son of God. Now, no Christian stuff here. He ain't the Messiah. And he ain't coming back. I mean, we're all coming back. But Moshe Rabbeinu, as a human being, is the greatest human being that ever existed. He's a man that rose to the highest levels of what a human being can achieve. Now, we, of course, can't compare ourselves to him. What we need to do is to learn how to be the best we can be. What can I do to become the Moshe Rabbeinu of me? To be selfless, to be giving, to be thoughtful, to be loving, to be teaching, to be so sacrificial as that I don't have any interest whatsoever. But we're not at that level. We all have interests. We all have things that are important to us and stuff. But how can we manage to put those personal things down a little bit, push them aside a little bit, and start thinking of the grander picture? What are we doing for our people? What are we doing? I mean, people live in Israel, understand, and they have these crazy missiles flying overhead, right? Running into the bomb shelters. What are we thinking? We're relaxing. We sleep at night. Come on. So I'll tell you about sleeping at night. One of the customs of Tisha B'Av is to find discomfort in sleeping. So they say, if you're used to 2 pillows, sleep with 1. If you're used to 1, sleep with none. If you sleep with none, sleep with a rock. Right? So we talked about that. We talked about that on Sunday. Tisha B'Av night, Saturday night, we will experience some real, and Sunday, we will experience some real personal discomfort. And that's valuable, that's healthy. We're gonna fast. We're not gonna wear leather shoes. We're gonna do all the things like Yom Kippur. Husbands and wives have to sleep in separate beds. We're gonna not wash except up to the knuckles, right? In the morning. We're gonna have, and obviously no one wants to work. Wouldn't make a difference if it was Sunday or Tuesday. We don't work on Tuesday. We have this day to concentrate and focus on the sufferings of our people. And when we do that, we're not only building ourselves up, we're making a contribution to our people. We're solidifying our relationship with our brothers and sisters, wherever they may be. That's the name of the game. And that's what this whole book is going to be about. And that's what this observance is going to be about on Saturday night and Sunday. Saturday night, yeah.
Question for you for Abdullah, you're not allowed to make kiddush.
Right. So Abdullah Saturday night, there'll be nothing but the recital of the Abdullah and the davening, or for women to say the words Baruch Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'Chol. When you're done with that, and you light up a candle, and you make Borei Me'oresh, and you're done. The rest of the Abdullah with a cup of wine is Sunday night. That's correct. You're not permitted to wear, let's say, loose tennis shoes on Shabbat, because you're obligated to wear them on Tisha B'Av. So what we do generally is we switch just after Shabbat is over, take off the leather shoes, put on the regular shoes, go to shul, and hear the reading of Eicha, which is probably going to be somewhere around 10 or 5 to 9 on Saturday night. The service is rather short on Saturday night. But everyone should be there, men and women, and be with their people. If you're going to make a positive contribution, you want to be part of your people, understand what we've been through, and join us on Tisha B'Av night. Tisha B'Av day, everyone should go to an early morning service, 8:30, whatever. We're going to start a Tisha B'Av service at 10:30 here. It won't be a class, it'll be a service. We'll all sit on the floor. So I'm asking you to bring a pillow, because it's a hard floor. So I don't want to, please bring something to make it easy for you. If you have a small little beach chair or something, bring that. Whatever you can to make it as miserable as possible. And because you don't want to make that suffering. And we're going to have the service from 10:30 to 12:30, in which during the service we will once again go over the story of Eicha. I'll be doing it in Hebrew and in English. With the same wonderful tune that we've been doing for thousands of years. And you can really feel, if you really want to feel it, the influence, you can feel, we're sitting right next to the wall. Imagine that. Imagine sitting next to the last best at the temple of the park on the very same day. Wow. Now, of course, it's not real, but how many people have ever spent the dish while in Israel? How many people have done the hotel? Okay, no.
This is the day.
This is the day, that's correct.